The mind is a powerful tool that requires intentional training. Unlike our physical bodies, which visibly respond to exercise and diet, the mind works in more subtle and often invisible ways. Yet its power to shape our reality is unmatched. Every decision we make, every reaction we have, and every direction we choose in life stems from the condition of our mind. But despite its importance, many of us leave it to chance. We go through life reacting rather than responding, absorbing information without questioning it, and allowing our emotions to control our actions. This happens not because we lack intelligence, but because we haven't taken the time to deliberately train our mental faculties. Intentional mental training means choosing to guide your thoughts rather than letting them wander aimlessly. It's about noticing your inner dialogue and reshaping it when necessary. It involves developing awareness of your emotional triggers and learning how to pause, breathe, and redirect your attention instead of being swept away by anger, anxiety, or fear. It means building habits that encourage clarity, resilience, and calm. Habits like daily meditation, focused reading, meaningful conversation, and reflection through journaling or quiet thought. Just as an athlete doesn't wait for game day to begin training, we shouldn't wait for crisis or chaos to begin strengthening our minds. By the time the storm hits, it's too late to build the shelter. A trained mind allows us to face challenges with composure and navigate uncertainty with purpose. It helps us become less reactive and more intentional. We become better listeners, better learners, and better leaders. Not because we suddenly gained more knowledge, but because we developed the mental discipline to access and apply what we already know with clarity and control. Training the mind is not about becoming perfect or emotionally detached. It's about becoming steady in an unsteady world. When we train our minds with purpose, we take back control of our time, our focus, and ultimately our lives. The difference between someone who is ruled by circumstances and someone who creates opportunity is often not a matter of intelligence or luck. It's the strength and clarity of their thinking. That clarity comes not by accident, but by consistent, deliberate practice. Mental strength is just as important as physical fitness. In a society that heavily promotes physical health through gyms, diets, sports, and body image, we often overlook the health of our inner world, but mental strength underpins everything. You can have the strongest body, the most impressive skills, and access to the best opportunities. But if your mind is fragile, easily broken by stress or failure, all those external advantages can quickly become meaningless. Mental strength is what allows us to keep going when things get hard. It's what helps us push through fear, discomfort, and doubt. It's what gives us the courage to make difficult decisions and the patience to endure long, challenging processes. Physical strength helps you lift weights or run long distances. Mental strength helps you get out of bed when you're overwhelmed, face a crowd when you're afraid, or stay calm when life falls apart. It's not about being emotionless. It's about recognizing your emotions without letting them control you. People often think mental strength is something you're born with, but like physical fitness, it is something that can be developed through consistent practice and intentional effort. Developing mental strength involves learning how to manage your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways that support your goals and values. It means refusing to be defeated by temporary setbacks, choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort, and staying focused even when distractions or adversity try to pull you off course. This kind of resilience doesn't come from simply hoping things will work out. It comes from deliberate inner work, just like training a muscle. The challenges we face in life don't just test our skills, they test our mindset. When things don't go as planned, it's not the strongest body that wins, it's the strongest mind. The ability to keep a level head, adjust your strategy, and keep moving forward despite pain, confusion, or uncertainty is the hallmark of a trained, resilient mind. Physical strength may give you presence, but mental strength gives you power. It's the quiet force behind confidence, perseverance, and clarity. It's the foundation of emotional intelligence, leadership, and success, not just in moments of peace, but especially in times of crisis. That's why building mental strength is not optional, it's essential. An untrained mind leads to stress, distraction, and poor decision-making. When we don't actively guide and strengthen our mental faculties, we become vulnerable to the chaos of the world around us. Our thoughts race without direction, our emotions fluctuate wildly, and our focus is easily hijacked by every noise, notification, or worry that crosses our path. In such a state, even small problems feel overwhelming, and we react to situations impulsively rather than responding thoughtfully. Without mental training, our mind becomes like unguarded doors, open to fear, doubt, anxiety, and the influence of others. Stress becomes a dominant force when the mind hasn't been taught how to manage pressure or maintain perspective. In today's fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded with information, expectations, and demands. Without the tools to process and prioritize them effectively, our brains go into overdrive. We worry about things we can't control, dwell on past mistakes, and fear future outcomes that may never happen. All of this mental noise contributes to a heightened sense of tension and fatigue. We begin to confuse being busy with being productive, and we lose the ability to slow down, reflect, or recharge. The result is burnout, not because we're weak, but because we haven't learned how to rest our minds or regulate our thoughts. Distraction is another symptom of an untrained mind. The inability to concentrate, the constant checking of phones, and the short attention spans we see today are not simply habits. They are signs of mental neglect. Focus is not something we either have or don't have. It's something we build, and without deliberate practice, it decays. A distracted mind jumps from one thing to another, never fully engaging with anything. This not only reduces our productivity, but also takes away our ability to find meaning and depth in our experiences. Conversations become shallow, learning becomes harder, and our goals slip out of reach. Not because we lack intelligence or motivation, but because we can't sustain attention long enough to make progress. Most damaging of all, an untrained mind makes poor decisions. It reacts emotionally, chooses instant gratification over long-term reward, and misjudges people and situations due to cognitive bias and unchecked assumptions. Without awareness and self-reflection, we fall into patterns that keep us stuck, repeating the same mistakes, avoiding necessary discomfort, and missing opportunities for growth. We often know what we should do, but we lack the clarity and discipline to actually follow through. And the cost of these poor decisions accumulates over time, affecting our relationships, careers, health, and sense of purpose. In this way, neglecting to train the mind doesn't just lead to temporary issues, it quietly sabotages our entire life. We become prisoners of our own thoughts, victims of our own reactions. But it doesn't have to be this way. With awareness and effort, the mind can be trained to manage stress, resist distraction, and make wise, measured choices. But the first step is recognizing that mental fitness is not optional. It is the foundation for everything else. And without it, we are constantly at the mercy of the external world and our internal chaos. Mental training includes reflection, meditation, journaling, and reading. These are not just quiet or passive activities. They are powerful exercises that shape the quality of your thoughts, deepen your understanding of yourself and the world, and strengthen your ability to stay calm, focused, and intentional. Each of these practices plays a unique role in developing a sharp, resilient mind, and together they form a routine of internal discipline that empowers you to lead your life with clarity and purpose. Reflection is the process of stepping back from the noise of daily life to examine your actions, decisions, and experiences. It's a mental pause that allows you to learn from what has happened instead of rushing blindly into what's next. When you reflect, you ask questions like, what went well? What could I have done differently? What did I learn? This self-awareness helps you grow and avoid repeating the same mistake. It also helps you connect your actions with your values so you can live with greater integrity and direction. Reflection turns ordinary experiences into lessons and moments of insight. Without it, we repeat life instead of improving it. Meditation is often misunderstood as something mystical or spiritual, but at its core, it is a mental workout. It trains the mind to be still, to focus, and to observe thought without getting carried away by them. In a world full of noise and constant stimulation, meditation teaches you how to pause, how to breathe, and how to return your attention to what matters. It builds emotional regulation, lowers stress, and sharpens your awareness. Over time, it rewires your brain to be more present, less reactive, and more capable of handling life's ups and downs with calm and poise. Just a few minutes of daily meditation can bring measurable improvements in attention, mood, and overall mental well-being. Journaling is another vital tool in mental training. Writing your thoughts out on paper helps organize your mind. It gives structure to what feels chaotic inside. When you journal, you can release emotions, identify patterns, clarify goals, and track your growth. It's a mirror for the mind, showing you what's really going on beneath the surface. Regular journaling helps you become more honest with yourself, more grounded, and more intentional. It's also a form of self-care. It gives you a safe space to express what you might not feel ready to share with others. Many of the most successful and self-aware people throughout history have kept journals because they knew the power of putting thoughts into words. Reading too is an act of mental training. It expands your mind by exposing you to different perspectives, ideas, and knowledge. It challenges your thinking, sharpens your understanding, and inspires creativity. Reading is not just about gaining information, it's about developing a more complex, flexible mind. It helps you learn how others have solved problems, how cultures differ, and how to think critically rather than accept everything at face value. The more you read, the more tools you give your mind to think clearly, speak wisely, and act effectively. These 4 practices, reflection, meditation, journaling, and reading, are like a gym for the mind. They strengthen your inner world so you can navigate the outer world with greater wisdom, control, and confidence. They don't require fancy tools, expensive memberships, or large blocks of time. What they require is commitment and consistency. When practiced regularly, they build the foundation for a life that is not just productive, but deeply meaningful and mentally strong. Focus and discipline are key components of a trained mind. In today's world of constant distractions and endless choices, the ability to direct your attention and stick to a task is more than just a useful skill. It's a superpower. Focus is what allows you to shut out the noise and zero in on what truly matters. Discipline is what enables you to keep going, even when the motivation fades, the results aren't immediate, or the process becomes uncomfortable. Without these 2 qualities, the mind becomes reactive, scattered, and inconsistent. With them, the mind becomes powerful, precise, and purpose-driven. Focus is not simply about avoiding distractions. It's about being fully present in whatever you are doing. It's about immersing your mind in the moment, whether you are working, studying, listening, or creating. But focus doesn't come naturally in a world filled with notifications, social media, multitasking, and short attention spans. It must be trained. The more you practice focusing, by setting time aside for deep work, by minimizing digital interruptions, by taking regular breaks to reset your mind, the more your brain adapts to stay engaged longer and more deeply. A focused mind is a calm mind. It knows what it's doing and why. It is less likely to be overwhelmed because it is not trying to do everything at once. It's doing one thing well, then moving on to the next with clarity and intention. Discipline, on the other hand, is the force that keeps the mind on track when the initial excitement wears off. Everyone feels motivated at the beginning of a goal, but discipline is what pushes you to continue when things become difficult, boring, or slow. Discipline trains your mind to resist the temptation of short-term gratification in favor of long-term success. It builds habits that support your growth rather than feeding your impulses. A disciplined mind doesn't wait to feel like it, it acts, based on purpose, not passing emotions. And that kind of consistency compounds over time, leading to greater confidence, self-respect, and real achievement. Together, focus and discipline allow you to take full control of your mental energy. They help you protect your time, prioritize your values, and pursue your goals with direction and commitment. Without them, your mind is vulnerable to procrastination, distraction, and emotional chaos. You start things, but don't finish them. You chase what's urgent instead of what's important. You get pulled in 100 directions and never feel like you're making real progress. Maintaining focus and discipline is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It requires small, repeated actions. Choosing to finish the task instead of checking your phone. Choosing to get up early to work on your goals. Choosing to stick to your plan even when it's inconvenient. Every time you do these things, you strengthen your mental muscles. You prove to yourself that you are in control, not your environment or your emotions, and that in turn builds self-mastery. When your mind is focused, it's efficient. When it's disciplined, it's unstoppable. These qualities are not fixed traits. They are skills anyone can build with practice, but they require intention. They require effort, and most importantly, they require belief that your mind, like any part of you, becomes stronger the more you use it with purpose. Focus and discipline are not just about productivity, they are about empowerment. They are the tools that allow you to design your life rather than be dragged through it by distraction and disorder. Everyone benefits from mental training, no matter their role or background. There is a common misconception that developing mental strength or training the mind is only necessary for people in high-stakes professions, like athletes, military personnel, CEOs, or spiritual leaders. But the truth is, mental training is essential for everyone. Whether you are a student trying to manage exams, a parent navigating the daily demands of raising children, a worker striving to succeed in your job, or an artist trying to create with clarity. Your mental state affects how you think, how you feel, how you act, and ultimately how you live your life. No matter your age, education, income, or goals, the ability to manage your thoughts and emotions is universally valuable. It affects your communication, your relationships, your decisions, and your resilience. Life is unpredictable and challenging for everyone in different ways. You don't have to face a dramatic crisis or live under extreme pressure to need a strong mind, even in the everyday moments. Dealing with stress at work, handling conflicts at home, making important choices about your future. Your mental fitness plays a major role in the outcome. A trained mind helps you pause before reacting, stay grounded during pressure, and keep moving forward even when progress feels slow or uncertain. Mental training is especially important because it is the foundation for other forms of growth. For example, if you want to improve your physical health, you first need the mental strength to stick to an exercise routine or resist unhealthy temptations. If you want to succeed in your career, you need focus, patience, and the ability to stay composed under pressure. If you want to build meaningful relationships, you need emotional intelligence, empathy, and the ability to regulate your own moods. These are not just emotional qualities, they are signs of mental discipline. And all of them can be strengthened through conscious practice. People often think they are too busy to train their mind, yet they spend hours trying to fix the problems that an untrained mind causes. Burnout, miscommunication, regret, anxiety, impulsive decisions. By making time for practices that strengthen the mind, you actually save time in the long run. You avoid unnecessary conflict, you recover faster from setbacks, and you handle challenges with greater clarity and control. It's not a question of whether you'll need mental strength. You already do. The only question is whether you are building it or neglecting it. The beauty of mental training is that it doesn't require special circumstances. You don't need a perfect environment or tons of free time. You can start where you are with what you have. You can build stronger focus during your commute by listening to something educational instead of mindless noise. You can reflect for 5 minutes before bed instead of scrolling endlessly on your phone. You can take a breath before reacting to something upsetting. These small actions, when done consistently, add up to major mental transformation. Everyone, regardless of their path in life, can benefit from having a mind that is calmer, clearer, and more in control. It helps you think critically, act wisely, and connect deeply. It improves your quality of life not because it changes your circumstances, but because it changes how you respond to them. And when you train your mind, you realize that you don't need to be anyone special to live with strength and purpose. You just need to start being intentional about the thoughts you cultivate, the habits you practice, and the energy you protect. Training your mind leads to better emotional control and resilience. In everyday life, we constantly face situations that test our patience, challenge our confidence, and stir up intense emotions: anger, sadness, anxiety, frustration, fear. When the mind is untrained, these emotions can overwhelm us. We lash out in anger, retreat in fear, or become paralyzed by anxiety. But when the mind has been trained with awareness, discipline, and self-reflection, we gain the ability to respond rather than react. Emotional control is not about suppressing feelings or pretending to be unaffected. It is about being aware of your emotions, understanding them, and choosing how to express or manage them in a healthy, constructive way. A trained mind gives you space between stimulus and response. Instead of acting impulsively when someone says something hurtful or when life takes an unexpected turn, you develop the ability to pause. In that pause, you can assess the situation clearly and decide what kind of response aligns with your values and goals. This pause is powerful. It helps prevent damage to relationships, poor decisions, and unnecessary regrets. It allows you to stay grounded when others around you are losing control. And this steady presence of mind isn't a trait that a few lucky people are born with. It's a result of consistent mental training. Emotional control also supports your ability to keep going when life gets tough. That's where resilience comes in. Resilience is the capacity to recover from challenges, to adapt to change, and to grow through difficulty. It is one of the most important qualities a person can develop in a world that is full of uncertainty and change. Life rarely goes exactly as planned. There will be failures, setbacks, losses, and moments of deep doubt. But resilience allows you to face these moments without falling apart. It gives you the strength to say, "This is hard, but I will not give up." Training your mind builds this resilience because it teaches you how to regulate your thoughts and emotions instead of being controlled by them. It gives you tools like reflection, reframing negative thoughts, and focusing on what you can control instead of what you can't. These mental habits help you maintain perspective and find meaning even in the middle of hardship. You begin to view obstacles not as permanent problems, but as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the next stage of your journey. Another aspect of emotional control is learning how not to take things personally. When you train your mind, you begin to understand that other people's actions are often reflections of their own struggles, not accurate judgments of your worth. This perspective helps you let go of unnecessary resentment and defensiveness. You begin to protect your peace instead of wasting your energy on battles that don't matter. Furthermore, a trained mind helps you recognize patterns in your emotional responses. You become more aware of your triggers, those specific situations, people, or memories that set you off. And once you're aware, you can begin to disarm them. You stop being a slave to automatic reactions and start becoming the master of your inner world. You build emotional maturity. You become more compassionate toward yourself and others. And in that growth, you also build deeper, more stable relationships. Because emotional control isn't just about you. It affects how you treat the people around you. Developing emotional control and resilience doesn't mean you'll never feel negative emotions again. It means you won't be destroyed by them. It means you'll feel the storm, but you won't let it sink your ship. Your thoughts, like your emotions, will come and go. But the trained mind knows how to sit with them, understand them, and use them as fuel for strength, rather than letting them spiral into chaos. That's the quiet, steady power of mental training. It creates a mind that is not easily shaken, a mind that endures, a mind that even in the face of life's storms knows how to return to calm. Consistency is the foundation of effective mental training. Just like physical strength is not built in a single workout, mental strength is not built in a single moment of clarity or motivation. It requires regular effort, small actions repeated over time, and the willingness to show up even when you don't feel like it. The mind thrives on repetition. The habits you form, the thoughts you feed, the practices you commit to, these are the building blocks of a stable, focused, and resilient mind. Without consistency, even the best techniques or insights quickly fade and lose their impact. One of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to personal development is expecting rapid transformation. They read a powerful quote, attend a motivational event, or try meditation once and expect immediate results. But the mind doesn't work that way. The patterns that shape our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are deep and often rooted in years of repetition. Changing those patterns takes patience, intention, and daily commitment. It's not the dramatic efforts that shape the mind most effectively. It's the quiet, steady ones. 5 minutes of reflection every morning, 10 minutes of focused breathing each evening, 1 page of journaling before bed. These may seem small, but over time, they rewire your brain and strengthen your mental foundation. Consistency also teaches you discipline. It's easy to act when you feel inspired, but true mental strength is built when you do the work without external motivation. When you keep your promises to yourself, whether it's maintaining your meditation practice, journaling every day, or sticking to a reading goal, you build trust in your own ability to follow through. You prove to yourself that you are reliable, not just in big commitments, but in small, everyday ones. That self-trust becomes a powerful source of confidence. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop needing external approval. You develop a quiet belief in your own resilience and capacity. Moreover, consistency brings clarity. When you engage in regular mental practices, you begin to notice patterns. You start to understand your thought cycles, your emotional triggers, your recurring doubts or fears. This insight doesn't come from occasional effort. It comes from regular observation and reflection. Just like a scientist needs repeated experiments to draw accurate conclusions, you need repeated self-work to truly understand and guide your mind. And once you understand how your mind works, you can start making real changes. Not just temporary fixes, but lasting transformations. There's also a cumulative effect that comes from being consistent. Each day you choose to train your mind, no matter how briefly, you are adding another layer of strength, clarity, and awareness. It might not feel significant in the moment, but over weeks and months, the difference becomes unmistakable. You become more focused in your work, more grounded in your relationships, more peaceful in your inner life. You begin to respond to challenges with composure instead of panic. You recover faster from setbacks. You notice the difference between what truly matters and what merely distracts. All of this comes from the power of showing up for your mind consistently. Finally, consistency is what turns knowledge into wisdom. It's one thing to know that mindfulness is important, that gratitude helps, or that reflection brings clarity. But until you practice these things regularly, they remain abstract concepts. Consistency takes the knowledge you've gathered and integrates it into your way of being. It transforms information into transformation. It takes you from knowing what's good for your mind to actually living it. And that is where real change happens. Not in the excitement of beginning, but in the quiet strength of continuing. Mental training boosts self-awareness and helps you understand your patterns, triggers, and motivations. In the rush of daily life, it's easy to operate on autopilot, reacting to situations without understanding why, making decisions based on fleeting emotions, or falling into habits that don't truly serve us. But when you begin to train your mind through intentional practices like reflection, journaling, and mindfulness, you start to shine a light inward. You begin to observe not just what you do, but why you do it. This self-awareness is one of the most powerful outcomes of mental training, and it transforms your inner and outer world. Understanding your patterns is like unlocking the code to your own behavior. Every person has mental and emotional habits, ways they think, react, and cope that have been formed over years, often without conscious choice. Maybe you shut down during conflict, avoid risk because of fear of failure, overcommit to please others, or procrastinate when you feel overwhelmed. These patterns don't just appear out of nowhere, they are shaped by past experiences, beliefs, and emotional conditioning. Without self-awareness, these patterns control you. But with awareness, you gain the power to pause, question, and eventually change them. Mental training helps you notice these patterns in real time. Instead of reacting impulsively, you start to observe your own reactions. You catch yourself thinking the same negative thought, falling into the same emotional trap, or repeating a choice that always leads to regret. And when you see the pattern, you can intervene. You can ask yourself, is this true? Is this helpful? Is there another way to see this? This kind of awareness allows you to respond with intention instead of simply repeating the past. It gives you the freedom to choose your actions rather than being pulled along by unconscious momentum. Alongside patterns, mental training helps you recognize your emotional triggers. Triggers are the people, situations, or even memories that spark strong emotional reactions, sometimes out of proportion to what's actually happening. Maybe a certain tone of voice makes you feel disrespected. Maybe failure reminds you of past humiliation. Maybe criticism instantly makes you defensive. Without awareness, triggers can dominate your behavior and damage your relationships. But when you become aware of your triggers, you can begin to understand them, manage them, and even heal from them. Mental training also brings clarity to your motivations. So often we chase goals without understanding what's really driving us. Are we seeking approval, trying to prove something, running from fear, or are we genuinely pursuing growth, contribution, and meaning? When you train your mind, you start to ask deeper questions about your intentions. You look beneath the surface of your actions and reconnect with your core values. This kind of self-inquiry leads to more authentic living. You stop doing things just because others expect them or because you've always done them. You start choosing based on alignment with your true self. In addition, increased self-awareness sharpens your ability to grow. When you understand your strengths and weaknesses, you can focus your energy more effectively. You know where to push yourself, where to be more patient, and where to ask for help. You stop comparing yourself to others and start measuring your progress based on your own standards. You become less reactive to external judgments because you are grounded in your own inner truth. Self-awareness also improves your relationships. When you understand your emotional landscape, you become more empathetic, more open, and less defensive. You communicate more clearly, listen more deeply, and create more space for others to be themselves. The quality of your relationships often mirrors the quality of your relationship with yourself. And mental training helps you build that relationship on honesty, compassion, and clarity. Ultimately, mental training gives you the rare and invaluable gift of truly knowing yourself. Not just who you are in front of others, but who you are when you're alone with your thoughts. That knowledge is not always comfortable. It reveals wounds, fears, and flaws. But it also reveals strengths, desires, and untapped potential. And the more you see yourself clearly, the more power you have to shape your life intentionally. This level of awareness is not an end point. It's the beginning of real growth. It's the foundation upon which all other change is built.